Hello and welcome to Round 12 here at Grand Prix Providence. Maria Bartholdi in the booth, joined by Marshall Sutcliffe. Team Peach Garden Oath currently sitting at 9-2. That is Owen Turtenwald, William Huey Jensen, and Reed Duke versus Lan Ho, Daniel Ho-O'Mahoney-Schwartz.
Lan better be playing Pirates, right?
Oh, I mean, Marshall, I said this before. His name is literally Lan Ho. I can't ignore it. I saw it.
You said that, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, you're totally right. I've known Lan for a few years now, and I never even put that together.
He was just waiting for a pirate set.
Well, it is his time.
And
he is in black.
Yeah.
That is a pirate color.
Oh, no, he's got white. He's playing vampires.
Come on, Lan. That is very off-brand.
It is off-brand. Maybe yesterday he was on Pirates. We don't know.
It's possible.
If he makes the top four, definitely has a chance to draft a Pirates deck, as we'll be seeing team draft with our top four. Meanwhile, Owen Turtenwald, we saw his deck earlier this morning, is just a straightforward, really good Merfolk deck, blue-green.
These are old school players here on the right-hand side. Yeah, I mean, that's Dan O'Mahoney-Schwartz. That's like an OMS brother right there, as in the OMS brothers that played with Finkel back in the day.
Oh, really?
And had a ton of success. Yes, absolutely. There's also a Steve, although he's not here this weekend. New York area players.
Sure.
Of course, they're running into the buzzsaw here.
Yes,
though,
they are.
The Peach Garden Oath. And, I mean, there's numerous ways to be intimidated by the Peach Garden Oath. You can see the parentheses on their names. They're all in the top 25 pro rankings right now, with Reed heading the way. Also, you recognize their names. And these guys are all business. I mean, heck, Owen even busted out his Magic Online Championship jacket for this one, too.
No big deal.
Just like running it up.
And he's off to a fast start here, which is exactly where Merfolk wants to be. Lan, a little slower of a start with the Vampires deck here, but you can get right back into things with a card like Call to the Feast, which creates 3 1/1 life-linking vampires. Skymarch Bloodletter already in play there, 2/2 flyer, which gains 1, drains 1 when it enters the battlefield.
Looks like a pretty good start here for Lan.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, you sometimes think, oh, well, they're just 1/1s, but time and time again, I found myself sitting across the table from 1 or 2 1/1 life-linking vampires, and I'm like, well, now I can't attack.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening here to Owen, is this board has just matched up perfectly to just brick wall his attacks, and it's not getting better here either with the Paladin of the Bloodstained.
Paladin of the Bloodstained brings along another life-linking vampire creature token.
Well,
goodbye.
Cancel that order.
River's Rebuke will send all of those cards back to Lan's hand, but you know what tokens do, Marshall? They just go away.
Wow, that was an unkind gesture from Owen Turtenwald, to say the least.
Owen smashes in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, dropping Lan down to 5. Yeah, R.I.P., buddy.
Rip. That was likely just game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible for Lan to come back, but it's not realistic. So Turtenwald had trades he could have made.
Yeah,
he could have said, attack with this. Okay, I'll trade off 2 tokens for my 2/2. Attack with this other one, and chipped away. And, if he didn't have River's Rebuke, we may have seen him do that.
Sure.
But the fact that he had it said, okay, I'll just let you build up. And it just got better and better for him as we see Lan build out his board of mainly tokens. And that was just crushing River's Rebuke there. Not fun for Lan Ho there.
Owen Turtenwald picking up the first game here in round 12 of GP Providence. And this is the second time we've seen Owen cast River's Rebuke, just to devastating effect, completely decimating his opponent. What a card, River's Rebuke. Let's check in here at Table C. Reed Duke versus Igor Freeman. We haven't had a chance yet to check out Reed's deck, but it won very quickly in the first round.
Yeah, we get an idea of why here. It looks like PGO went aggressive across the board.
Yeah.
If you remember, Jensen's on red-black
Pirates.
Pirates, right? And we saw that Turtenwald's playing an aggressive deck as well with blue-green Merfolk, and Reed no slouch down here with perhaps the fastest of the 3 decks with
red-white.
Mm-hmm.
Legion's landing there, you see, creating a 1/1 vampire lifelinker. When you attack with 3 or more creatures, you get to transform it. It becomes Adanto, the first fort, allowing you to pay 2 and a white to tap and create another vampire creature token.
Solid little card. It's not a bomb. It's not the type of card that you just go, ooh, we open a Legion's landing. But you know what? It makes a little bit of board presence for your 1 mana, and it gives you the possibility for a late game engine that's pretty good. Those are nice little cards that it pumps out, even if, at the end of the day, if you do get the first fort going, it's not super mana efficient. It costs you a total of 4 lands tapped to make a 1/1, and that isn't, often the best thing you can do with your 4 mana. But still, that's a reasonable little trade-off there. And I find that card to be thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Yep, I like it too.
Fine Magic card. It's just not really the type of, overpowering bomb that you would hope for out of your rare.
Can help you out later in the game if you have nothing else to do. Something we like to call a mana sink.
That's right. And, it's important that you brought that up too, Maria, because mana sinks in this format, there have not been many of them.
No.
That's a big deal, The fact that, we kind of had this a while ago. Limited formats that don't have mana sinks make your mana considerations pretty tough. If you flood out, you want to have something to do with that mana, ideally repeatedly. Right. And in this format, that is not common to find. There's just not that many cards that do that.
So there we saw an attack with a couple of Deadeye Tormentors from Igor, getting a Pyromancer. Activation of Raid there, you see it, deals 2 to target creature or player, taking down the Emissary of Sunrise. Direfleet Interloper here for Igor.
But he drew a land.
Looks like it. Menace. In comes the Pyromancer as well as another Tormentor. We're going to see a lightning strike there on the Stormfleet Pyromancer.
Bzz. Bad luck.
Still applying pressure here to Reed.
Ooh.
All right. Wanted Scoundrels hits the table for Igor. It's a 4-3.
That's you and I.
That's us, Marshall. There we are.
Definitely Wanted and definitely Scoundrels.
Most assuredly.
That is a Priest of the Awakening Sun there.
Igor taking a look. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can reveal a dinosaur card from your hand. If you do, you gain 2 life. You can pay 3 white to sacrifice it and search your library for a dinosaur card. Reveal it and put it into your hand.
I haven't figured out how good this card is yet.
Yeah.
If the life gain is relevant to the matchup that you're in, it looks pretty good. But, you're going to want to cast those dinosaurs as well. So it's not like you just get to do it for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you have a bomb in your deck that you can search up, if you can manage to get to a stalled board, it can gain you a couple life maybe and then go find your bomb. It could be good. It's just, even if you are on that plan, you're adding 5 mana, effectively 6 mana, if you count the Priest itself, to the cost of that bomb that you're getting. I mean, it better be a game winner.
It better be good. I'm interested now to know what Reed might be packing in here for
Let's see
dinosaurs.
what he's got. Let's see what old Reed Duke has here.
Ooh, contract killing on a life-linking token there from Igor.
And by the way, that is something that you'll see is that he's ignoring the Priest.
Yeah.
He's just like, look, if you want to spend
Whatever.
your mana doing that, looks like it may have just been a lethal attack anyway.
Yeah, that's game. Igor's going to pick up that one versus Reed Duke. 1 win in his column. You can see over on the top left of your screen, Team Peach Garden Oath currently has 2 wins. Owen Turtenwald with 1. William Huey Johnson with 1.
Yeah, he did have the one that came to mind when I said if he could go get a bomb, which was Burning Sun's Avatar.
Yeah.
So that's probably his best option. He does have a few other reasonable cards, dinosaurs, but nothing as good as that, it looks like. Some Thrash of Raptors, those type of cards.
Sure. 3 copies of Pious Interdiction, by the way.
Yeah, pretty nice. Yeah, he's got a Shining Aerosaur, a few decent cards, but definitely he's put that in his deck specifically so that he can go find the Burning Sun's avatar. That's the one that he wants to get with it.
Kind of nice little aggressive deck from Duke here, running 2 copies of Territorial Hammerskull, which has been a card that just want to highlight as being really impressive this weekend. And it's interesting to me that PGO is choosing to all be on aggressive decks in a sealed format where, normally that's a risky decision. You're definitely taking a stance when you say, I'm going to play an aggressive deck in sealed. And you're especially taking a stance when all 3 of your teammates are playing aggressive decks in a format. Especially one that's filled with huge dinosaurs.
One thing we should mention here, by the way, are the records of the teams here, Maria, both sitting at 9-2.
Right.
And thusly on the verge of elimination for top 4 contention. Every match we've had in the feature match area so far today has been like this.
Right.
There was one team coming into the round that was still undefeated. They're looking pretty good, but when you're at this X-2, as we call it, in this case 9-2 in this round, you're up against it. A loss means you're not going to be playing in the top 4, and these teams just have absolutely nothing to give.
And you see over there on the left side of your screen, that's going to be our time walk match. Some more fantastic players over there. Brad Nelson sitting down at the end of the table, Martin Dang, Thomas Hendricks, Adam Snook, Matt Costa, and David Shiels. We'll watch them later this round. Team Peach Garden Oath does everything together, including finish all their games at the same time.
Apparently, they're now synchronized.
Yeah, synchronized shuffling. It's going to be in the next Olympics, I think.
Do you think that Owen and Huey are like, come on, Reed? We said, well, win at the same time, not finish the game at the same time.
Reed heard you.
He did kind of look over, didn't he?
Yeah. Reed
Sorry,
knows.
buddy. Just a joke. Easy.
But if you had asked me coming into this tournament, if you thought, you'd say, would you want to play an aggressive deck in this format, Maria? And I would say, I would be pretty terrified to do that, Marshall.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. You've got a 6/6 Trampler for 6 that you can just play.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, you get it. You have, I suppose cards like rares, but a 4/5 Dino for 4, Ripjaw Raptor, this kind of stuff. I would just be afraid that I would get off early and then immediately be just slammed on the brakes by one dinosaur.
By some huge, big, fat dino. It's not impossible that happens either.
But, I mean, maybe it's the flip side of the coin, which is taking advantage of players who think that's what you should do, and you punish them for it.
Yeah, so far the combat tricks have been pretty effective in the format. They're relatively cheap. Vampire Zeal has really stood out as a powerful one, and then River Herald's Boon seems to be the best combat trick in the format as it sticks around.
Exali's Keeper on 2 here for Owen. No play from Lan. Passes back, and there I see one of Owen's hallmark cards in his deck pulled to the front of his hand. Shapers of Nature. There it is.
It looks pretty good here, and he's going to breathe a sigh of relief because Lan had no removal there. He could have had Slash of Talons or Vanquish the Weak for the 3/3, and he had neither. And that's, well, you're probably going to want to tap, but
you got to pay for that, buddy.
Lan just skipped that. There we go.
Paladin of the Bloodstained is the play. It's a 3/2, comes along with a 1/1. No fear from Owen, swings in.
Chat reminds us, by the way, Skullduggery as well. Another good combat trick. And there's
Fabulous.
others, too. Even Sure Strike, which is, one of the mediocre combat tricks in the format. Look, 2 mana to basically win any combat, that's actually fine, too.
Sure Strike has impressed me.
Yeah. So, and again, that's not even one of the good ones. So, I don't know. There might just be a lot of good aggressive decks, and we see the Peach Garden Oath really trying for that.
There we see Lan's Paladin jumping in front of that Shapers of Nature, and Owen just shrugs, activates, puts a counter on it.
Anointed. So Lan just chumped with his Paladin of the Bloodstained.
Yeah, essentially.
Like onboard
trick.
Huh.
Anointed Deacon was the play from Lan there, who is able to give a Vampire at the beginning of combat +2/+0, so he's able to swing for 3 points of lifelink damage last turn, but Owen's just going to turn him sideways again.
Curious to see if Lan jumps in front of the 2/2 here with his Anointed Deacon. No, he's just going to take it.
Take 6. There it is, Anointed Deacon, a 3/3 itself.
I mean, I could understand not wanting to lose it.
Yep.
But it is a 3/3 on a 2/2. You know, it's got to be tempting, right?
I don't trust anything from the Merfolk deck.
No, I mean, they have a million tricks. You're right to not trust that.
Duress. Take a peek at Owen's hand.
What did you call creepy boat lady? Is that what you?
Yeah. Just look at her.
There's a lot of different artwork on Duress. There's one of the old school 7th edition white bordered.
Come on, Kenji.
Please.
That is hideous.
That is not my favorite Duress artwork.
I was going to just say that this Duress is my favorite.
This one?
No. The Ixalan one.
The creepy boat lady
Yeah.
is? All right, well.
I think it's a boat dude, honestly.
That's the best one.
That one's great.
That one's it, yeah.
Is that like some kind of artifact just plunging into his chest?
Well, I never really looked too closely at what was actually happening there. By the way, Owen did have 2 River Herald Spoon in
yeah,
hand. So
sure did.
Solid no block there from Lan.
He's going to take a Crushing Canopy.
Yeah.
Destroys a flyer. Or an enchantment.
So that could certainly be a harbinger of things to come.
Swings
3.
for 3. Shining Aerosaur would be a card I would be thinking that might be something Lan has in his hand.
A little bit of a sequencing error here from Lan. He went into combat and then pointed at it like, hey, I'm going to do it. I mean, I think likely the result will be, well, we know what you meant, but just make sure next time you're a little bit more clear about, I'm going to my beginning of combat, I'm targeting this, and then I'm going to attack with this.
Right.
He kind of did it in one fell swoop, but likely, this will be one of those things where the players or a judge will come and they'll say, okay, well, let's just make sure we get the sequencing tightened up a little bit, but we did see Lan tap the top of that. It was just after he turned it sideways. So, again, kind of doing it all at once is a little sloppy just because that triggers at the beginning of combat before you've declared your attatter.
So Owen gets a chance.
Well, we'll see because there's a little bit of wiggle room with that. Owen, I believe... Now, remember, I can't hear him. I can only see his hands. But, I believe what he's saying is, look, this is a beginning of combat trigger, and you declare this as an attacker. Declare attackers happens after the beginning of combat, meaning you may have missed the trigger.
Right.
But we did see Lan also point at it. And when you point at it, that could be him saying, I'm doing both of these things at once. And it wouldn't be, unbelievable for that to be the case here.
Well, we'll know when we see a life total change. Looks like they're kind of waiting on a judge ruling here.
Yeah.
I saw the feature match judge's hand getting in there. So while they're waiting, let's take a look here at table B. Huey versus Dan O'Mahoney-Schwartz. Speaking of Shapers of Nature, how about 2? Dan's got a couple in play. Meanwhile, Huey, Black-Red Pirates, as we mentioned before. Got a couple of Direfleet Interlopers.
Woo!
Nice.
How about a couple of Shapers of Nature?
Yeah.
Dan brought the business here.
Nice. Well, how do you like Direfleet Interloper, by the way? 2/2 Menace, Explore
Medium.
for 4.
Medium. I think that this one is similar to the Haste one, where if you get the counter, you're like, cool. I'll pay for that. I'm happy. If you don't,
you're kind of like, ugh.
A little bit less. I wouldn't quite go that far for the Interloper because it still has Menace, and that can still be a pain. But, would you pay 4 mana for a 2/2 Menace draw card? Yeah.
I guess.
If the card had to be a land, you're getting a little bit less. It's close, right?
Yeah.
I certainly think it's a playable. Like, it's not the type of card that you're embarrassed to put in your deck, but it isn't. It's a filler. It's more in the filler / sure it's fine type thing rather than a card you're excited about.
Trade there for one of the Shapers of Nature. A couple of Huey's creatures will go down. That Direfleet Hoarder will leave a treasure behind. It was in her will, no doubt. Direfleet Captain is the play here. 2/2 gets +1/+1 for every other attacking pirate.
Yeah,
Draw when it attacks.
There was also an Emperor's Vanguard there for Dan O'Mahoney-Schwartz.
Nice. Emperor's Vanguard.
It's pretty decent, though. It looks mediocre here. Actually, looks pretty good. It looks like it might be able to take down 2 creatures from a double block, as that brute can't block.
Nope.
And that means that any combination of the other 2 are enough to kill it, but at 4 power, it would kill both of them as well.
Emperor's Vanguard unchecked. When it deals combat damage to a player, it explores. Can get out of control. 4 mana in play for Dan. Enough to put a +1/+1 counter on something with those Shapers of Nature if he chooses. Probably one of my favorite arts in the set as well on Emperor's Vanguard there.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know what I'm looking at from Huey's mana base? Why is he running stuff like Unclaimed Territory?
Well, I think that when you're effectively 100% pirates, which I'll double check, but I think he is, that's just any color for your creatures. So
sure.
Just upside. By the way, I just got a message from Brian David Marshall.
Oh, yeah?
Pro Tour historian. And he reminds me that this is really cool. Jensen and Dan, they actually teamed in one of the very early, team GPs, and they made top 4 along with another player who's in this building, Dave Williams.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Playing against a former teammate from back in the day.
Yeah, and we're talking way back. I mean,
way back.
Like the 90s.
I wasn't even alive then.
You were alive. Don't even.
That's you right there, Marshall. That's you.
Kenji. Rashad shuts the door on that one.
Let's send this Emperor's Vanguard to the air. One with the wind from Dan. Ho-O'Mahoney-Schwartz.
Now it's not getting blocked.
Nope.
He did miss, though.
He explored, found a land.
But there wasn't any way for him to get both in anyway.
Yeah. Huey's just going to smash. Turns them all sideways.
So if he chump blocks here, he's taking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and falling down to 5, and he has to chump block, and he doesn't have lethal without some type of a trick.
Yep.
He's only got 6 power. We know there's a lot of cards that could get the job done here. Also, though, Jensen's sitting there with 7 mana and 2 cards in hand, just like, come on.
Come at me.
Actually, he's got a treasure, too, so even more mana. I don't really see what choice Dan has unless he's got like 2 creatures. Then he could go to 1 by taking both of the Direfleet Interloper hits. But like, where does that go for him?
Yeah, that Headstrong Brute also has Menace.
Yeah, so he would take... So 2 creatures... No, even with 2 creatures, he actually can't block any. Yeah. Yeah, this is not looking good for Dan OMS here. By the way, BDM says, I lost to them in the last round winning it. So
that's how he remembers.
That was when BDM was playing, too.
Ooh, Hostage Taker. Water Trap Weaver was in play there for Huey.
But it didn't tap anything? Like, anyway, whatever.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Huey's going to take down that game versus Dan O'Mahoney-Schwartz, giving him the match there, 2 games, 2-0, the first match win in the books there for Team Peach Garden Oath. Reed Duke currently down a game to Igor Freeman. Looks like they are in the process of sideboarding before game 2. And we have a judge call on the field there, Owen Turtenwald versus Landy Ho. Kind of talking through what happened. We had something of what appeared to be a missed trigger, was it? Question mark situation with an anointed deacon.
Yeah, and this is just one of those scenarios where it comes down to a subtlety of, well, what was said was, one of the other things that the judges will ask about a lot is if there was a pattern established prior to that would show a shortcut.
Sure.
And if both players had agreed to the shortcut, then that player's able to use it again. It's more likely that Lan will win the ruling from that. the way I saw it when I was watching is that he just did both things at once. And to me, it's a touchy situation because you do have to be very specific in the game of Magic. This is a professional level event here. We're not talking about something small, right? We're not,
right.
A lot of money, right? We're talking about careers here. So you do need to be very specific.
And this is effectively an elimination round,
Absolutely.
as you mentioned.
Tons on the line here for both teams. So it does behoove you to be very specific. But, you also got to play Magic. And when we play Magic, especially in real life, we do tend to make small shortcuts where you say, I'll attack with this thing for 3.
Right.
And like what you really, really, like to play it perfectly, you should say, I'd like to go to the beginning of combat. Owen says, okay. You say, there's a trigger on the stack. I'm going to target this. Does it resolve? And Owen says, it resolves. I'd like to declare attackers. Owen says, okay, I'll declare this as an attacker. Okay, now we're in blocks. And that's that's how you get through that. But, in 99% of scenarios, this same thing is accomplished by point at this and turn it sideways.
Yeah.
And what he did was, if I remember correctly, was kind of all at once. Like he turned it sideways and pointed at it at the same time. And that's where the confusion came in.
That's so rough.
From Turtenwald's side, because he's like, well, look, if you're turning it sideways, that to me says that you wanted to go to declare attackers and pointing at it at that point. That hasn't give Owen a chance to respond, right? It doesn't give him a chance to know ahead of time, I need to tap this down or bounce it or whatever, because by the time he's already in attackers, well, now what? Right? Because if Owen says, I want you to back up, that could give away something about what's in Owen's hand or what his plan is. Now, it's a little bit tricky here because I think Owen knows most of Land's cards in hand.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the other way around. Land knows most of Owen's cards in hand. And this is where the judge is going to have to get into that nitty-gritty of the game, and he's going to have to decode exactly what was said and when it was said. And, look, this isn't the most fun part.
No.
It's really not. But again, we are talking about a significant amount of money and pro points on the line for these players, so it does make sense. And I always say this, I've said this for years, and I think everybody knows by now, call a judge.
Yep.
This is what the judge is here to do, is to interpret these scenarios and to apply the rules to the best that they know how to make sure that the game is fair for everybody.
There you can see down at the end of the table, Reed Duke getting a little help with a mulligan decision from teammate Huey, who is finished with his match. Let's take a look in here at table C. Players tied up 1 game apiece. Skyblade of the Legion for Reed, 1-3 flyer, versus a Wanted Scoundrels. Down on the board, there we are, Marshall, 4-3.
Give me love.
Boom.
Boom.
In they come for 4.
That's how we do it.
Yeah. No holding back,
Wanted
Marsh.
Scoundrels gets rowdy. And
they're definitely part of the rowdy crew.
Definitely. And, the thing is, that card is just a handful. You play it and you're like, my first 2 creatures trade for it? And sometimes that isn't even the case. And then, this is all discounting when you either augment the Scoundrels themselves or just use a combat trick or a removal spell.
Yep.
And it's just like 4, 8, 12.
We talked about Pirates Cutlass on those bad boys.
Totally.
Dire Fleet Captain coming down to join the fray.
It's a
for
nice
Igor.
one. Really good here, too, just because when he attacks next turn, it will come in as a 3-3, which means the Skyblade of the Legion, will not have a block there either.
Right.
Igor off to a very solid start here.
Yeah, Reed's got to put something together here. Potentially, if he's able to kill those Wanted Scoundrels, we'll be able to block the captain.
Also of note here, Igor's the only one to take a game off of Peach Garden Oath thus far in this round.
Yeah.
So there's a lot lying on his shoulders here because Lan, he's not in a great spot in that first game. I mean, they were somewhat evened up, but he's down a game.
He's down a game, and Owen was kind of on the front foot in that match too. Emissary of Sunrise here for Reed, coming in as a 3-2 first striker. Repeating Barrage hits the bin for Reed.
Which is kind of cool. It's a combo.
Yeah.
That's the kind of card you want to draw, but he may not have double red, and then down the line, he might be able to just trigger raid and just be like,
I'll just bring it back. It's
get
fine.
this back. It's kind of just holding it there in the graveyard for now.
Wow, this card is such a beating.
Which one?
Repeating Barrage?
Oh, yeah, that is
Just good night.
good, clean fun.
Yeah, if you're casting it.
Yeah. Now, the question here, though, is does Igor have a removal spell? Because that Emissary of Sunrise is currently holding off the entire board, but it's fragile at only 2 toughness. So if it goes away,
Oh, look at this.
is that Fiery Cannonade?
Fiery Cannonade, a.k.a. Pirate Clasm, taking down the Emissary, swinging in for 7.
Oof. Him having a removal spell there was the difference probably between winning this game and not.
Yep, absolutely.
Because now the beats keep flowing. You know, the repeating barrage is like just going to be a non-factor this game unless Reed has some haymaker here. And I can't even imagine. It's just... That ain't it.
Bishop's Soldier, 2/2 lifelinker for 2.
Fine Magic card, but... Also, once again, Igor, if he's got any combat trick or removal spell, he's just completely in business. If he's not, it gets a little interesting.
Sure, I mean, if Reed has something like Vampire Zeal, for instance.
Oh, that's a good call. That would change things a lot. If that all went.
Yeah, as planned.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
I'm curious to see what Igor does here as well, because he could just attack with both, but he will lose a creature as it sits on board.
Reed is blocking the Direfleet Captain.
Double blocking.
Oh, Slash of Talons.
Well, what else does he have? Do you have Dual Shot?
Sure enough.
Woo!
Look at that. Dual Shot deals 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures.
May as well do it to both. Well, that judge call might not matter because this match is 1 game apiece.
Right.
And if Reed can come back from this start, he may be able to switch, turn the tides on Igor here. Because if this all happens, this is Reed gaining some life and really stabilizing the board, leaving Igor with no creatures.
Did you see how he blocked?
So I saw him double tap on the Direfleet Captain, so my assumption is that he double blocked it.
Okay.
That would ensure that it dies.
Yep, and
And
so with
gain
3
him some
damage
life.
to the Scoundrels.
Right, and then 3 damage will happen to the Scoundrels as well. I wonder if Igor has Skullduggery here. Because he's really in the tank.
Oh, Chad is saying he is responding to the trigger of the attack from Direfleet Captain.
Okay, so then there's been no block so far, and chat's right. And by the way, that is Skullduggery.
Yep.
Which is just going to mean that Reed has, and this was smart by Reed to do this before blocks, because now he gets to understand how he needs to block to make sure that things go the way he wants. Because remember, the dual shot doesn't actually kill the Direfleet Captain, even if it is with the trigger on the stack. It only does 1 damage to it. So Reed could, though, switch the blockers there and trade off both creatures.
Skyblade of the Legion will block the wanted Scoundrels.
Interesting. So he's going to keep his Bishop Soldier alive here rather than block with it.
An important card for Reed as it has lifelink currently sitting at 9.
Please take the cards you have opened and your deck list and pass it across the table.
2 treasure come into play because of the wanted Scoundrels heading to the graveyard. There's a Fathom Fleet Firebrand from Igor. Follow-up play. Passes back over to Reed.
Right, so I made a mistake on that last call, by the way. He actually couldn't have traded off both. He only could have traded for one. The skullduggery minus made it so that that block wasn't going to be profitable.
Anyway.
He did do 1 damage to the Dire Fleet captain, so it did have a damage, and then also the +1/+1, but with the only 1 power left, it wasn't enough to actually finish it off. Still not terrible for Duke, though, keeping that Bishop Soldier around. That is the type of card that could trade off here for the Firebrand, or that could even start attacking to gain some life if Reed has some reasonable blocks to follow up with here.
Looks like Reed has 3 cards in hand currently, 4 mana on the table plus 2 treasure. Treasure, the best fixing in the format. In comes the Bishop's Soldier.
Yeah, so he is going to jam with it, and this is an important creature on the board now because, we've seen how much damage Igor can get in for. And gaining some life back is pretty important. And look at this. Igor's going to recognize that and just snap off the block here.
Yeah. Down goes the Firebrand and the Soldier. Treasure will get sacrificed. Raid trigger. Repeating Barrage goes back to Reed's hand.
Yeah, he doesn't have the second mountain yet, so he's got to kind of use this treasure carefully because he had to use 1 to get it back, and as it sits, he'll have to use another 1 to cast it. But he's very unlikely to die here. I don't even think it's possible. And he gets to untap, and even if he doesn't draw a mountain, worst case, he gets to just do 3 damage to the captain or whatever Igor plays. And Reed's actually starting to approach. Well, now he's going to want to kill that.
2 captains.
Yeah, 2 captains indeed. But the Fathom Fleet captain, much better card than the Dire Fleet, and he even has a second mountain, so he'll kill the Fathom Fleet here.
And a nice follow-up play, Territorial Hammer Skull.
You're not kidding, Maria. That's a great follow-up.
Can
Just a
block all
2/3. Yeah.
Yeah, taking down that Fathom Fleet captain was pretty important. That card can be a house if left unchecked.
Ooh, this is getting interesting. Reed Duke.
Oh, never mind. Scratch that. Pirate's Cutlass has something to say about blocks here from Duke.
Wow, that is nice. And by the way, Pirate's Cutlass has been very impressive.
Oh, absolutely. Just attaching for free.
Yeah, making it a really effective tempo play the turn you play it, and then priced just right. The 2 mana for the +2/+1 is like, I feel like I'm getting my mana's worth out of that afterwards as well. So a nice play there from Igor, kind of taking the reins back again from Duke.
Plenty of back and forth in this game already. Duke here, mounting an attack of his own. Territorial Hammer Skull gets in for 2. Reed currently at 2, repeating Barrage.
He needs a land. Oh, he has it.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That Barrage has repeated twice, and it is being super effective. Another thing that we should note here, Maria, is that a lot of this is possible because Igor is still stuck on 3 lands.
Yes, he is.
It hasn't seemed like it because he's been doing relevant things every turn, but now is where it really can catch up to you because, Reed just used up 8 mana worth of action that turn, and, Igor just hit his 4th land drop this turn. Uh-oh.
Captivating Crew here from Igor.
Well, that wasn't the worst case scenario for Reed. It was near it, but the haste... what's that guy called? The 3 in a red 2/2. I can't
Brazen Buccaneers?
Yeah, Brazen Buccaneers would have been, of course, the worst case. It just would have killed him. But Captain Crew's not that good for him either. He's probably going to have to. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If he has a land drop, he can repeat.
Tapping down the Captivating Crew. In comes the Hammer
It's
Skull.
going to have to be a mountain
1, 2,
to make this work.
Does he have it?
It looks like he does because he just spent all that mana. And a blocker's not going to get the job done.
Legion's Landing. Passes it back.
Let's see, 1 red mana. Does that do anything? No, right? He can just steal the blocker and get him. So it looks like Reed was just short a little bit of mana there. And I think Igor's just going to win this turn.
Plays a mountain. Activates the Crew. Steals the Soldier. And there's a handshake. Igor Freeman taking down the match against Reed Duke, giving both teams a win. deciding match, Owen Turtenwald versus Lan Ho. All right, they are back in action. Here we are. A long judge call early on.
Yeah, well, I'm working on getting an update on what actually happened there.
Okay.
I am curious to see how that ended up.
Playing out. Yeah, so am
Yeah. I mean, as you can see, we're kind of cruising along here as far as the actual match goes. But, that was an important early call.
It was. We can see in Ixalan's binding on Lan's Shapers of Nature, that anointed deacon there still in play, which was kind of the source of the judge call earlier. Meanwhile, Owen has managed to stick a bunch of creatures and just put a ton of +1/+1 counters on them. There you can see 2 River Herald's boons in his graveyard. Glorifier of Dusk here for Lan, 4/4. Can gain Flying and Vigilance for 2 life apiece. Build your own Baneslayer, I've heard it called. And a swing here from Turtenwald. Lan at 5. All right, so an update here of what actually happened was it was ruled that the trigger was missed from the Anointed Deacon earlier in the game. And Owen Turtenwald will take that game down, giving him the match. Peach Garden Oath taking the W here versus Lan, Daniel, and Igor, advancing to 10-2 as we head into round 13. No losses yet today at GP Providence for Team Peach Garden Oath. More Magic after these messages.